No one is doing more to draw attention to Donald Trump's cognitive and physical decline than Donald Trump himself. Almost every day, he highlights it, pointing out his swollen ankles, flashing his bruises, slurring his words, and forgetting proclamations he's made during his presidency. Each moment adds to the growing evidence that something is seriously wrong. Now, he's even said it out loud to his aides, sharing a self-diagnosis so alarming that it has left even his closest advisors stunned. And that's what we're about to get into. But they aren't the only ones shocked. I want to start with Trump's own White House doctors, who are reportedly humiliated by what he's leaking, what he's forgetting, and what he's saying. Because whatever medical issues are happening here, they've only gotten worse. Trump humiliates White House doctors over his secret scan. Worst effing thing. Donald Trump lashed out at White House doctors who made the president undergo a secret medical scan. During an interview in the Oval Office with New York Magazine, the 79-year-old was pressed about an MRI that Trump let slip that he had in October of 2025. An examination in the White House originally kept under wraps. "It was the worst effing thing I ever did, and I blame them," Trump said, pointing at his physician and the president's former medical advisor. "Can you explain why you asked me that?" Trump added, shaking his head. "Stupidest thing I've ever done." Jones, his physician, explained that he suggested Trump undergo another medical scan while the president was scheduled to attend his second of what is meant to be a once-a-year physical at Walter Reed. "While he was there, I asked him if he would complete some additional physical things that we're planning on doing annually. And he was like, okay. We will work it in for time schedules," Jones said, adding that the procedure was not actually an MRI, which can detect issues such as brain abnormalities or tumors. "We did a computerized tomography exam of his chest and his abdomen. Jones said, it's an MRI-like. Trump added that nothing specific prompted him to get the scan. It's because the machine was sitting there. I'm sitting right next to it. Trump caused confusion last October when he blurted out that he had undergone an MRI during his second physical of the year, but could not specify which part of the body had been examined. The results of the physical provided by Barbella did not indicate that Trump had undergone an MRI, and only noted that he had received advanced imaging screening without providing further detail. Months later, Trump told the Wall Street Journal that he didn't undergo an MRI scan at all. "It wasn't an MRI," Trump said. "It was less than that. It was a scan." Barbell A confirmed that Trump had actually had a CT scan in order to rule out any cardiovascular issues. Barbell A said Trump's doctors initially told the president that he may have an MRI or a CT scan. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt explained to the Journal that though White House would often refer to a CT scan as an advanced imaging, there was no evidence of narrowing of any blood vessels, Barbella told the New York Magazine, and no abnormalities of the heart. Jones added, "The reason for the imaging as routine as we stated is that any patient his age could have things and we ruled them out. The story should be about the fact that the results were perfect. They did not demonstrate any problems." Trump's fury over the scan was part of a lengthy feature detailing the president's various health issues, many of which have been heavily documented by the Daily Beast. These include the frequent bruises, of course, his cankles, and all the other issues that we have seen from Donald Trump in public. Yeah. I'm just going to say it. I don't trust it. When Donald Trump's doctor jumps in to tell reporters what they should be focusing on, that's not the behavior of a truly nonpartisan medical professional. A president's doctor trying to manage the press is a huge red flag. It feels coordinated, almost staged, especially when you look at what Donald Trump himself had to say about that report. And before we get into what he later told his advisors, comments that shocked them even more about his health, this context really matters.
New one is they did a report in the fake news New York Times where I worked this day from early in the morning till late in the evening, but we don't give out a full schedule. It's like who the hell wants to give out a schedule to these people? But it's all work. And this, in particular, this day was brutal. I never got to leave the seat. You couldn't do anything. It was just one after another after another. And this went on from early in the morning till late in the evening. And my people gave out a report. He had lunch. They show a report, lunch with somebody. And they did a story. Donald Trump is slowing down. He only had lunch. And then he went back up. And they said, that's malfeasance, whoever did, right? No, it's terrible. I was actually more angry with my people than I was with the New York Times. But they wrote a story, and it takes you a period of time to recover from these hits. And it's almost no matter what you do, but you have to keep a positive eye. But we have a fake press.
So Donald Trump absolutely hated that New York Times report, and it's been eating at him ever since. He was livid that they were openly talking about his physical collapse. He reportedly yelled at his doctor in the Oval Office, furious about the scan, insisting he didn't like it and questioning why anyone was even discussing it. Then, not long after, his physician appears during an interview and suddenly suggests that the press should be focused on things other than Donald Trump's health, because according to him, Trump is so healthy. That doesn't just feel a little sketchy to me, it feels very sketchy, especially when you consider the timing and the reporting that had just come out. Trump, 79, freaked out allies with prediction about when he'll die. Donald Trump stunned members of his inner circle by calmly predicting when his own body would be lying in state. According to a new report, the 79-year-old president reportedly made the comment at Mar-a-Lago as television screens showed Jimmy Carter's casket at the U.S. Capitol, telling the room, within 10 years, that'll be me. The remark attributed to a person familiar with his comments appears in a sprawling New York Magazine profile, The Superhuman President, about the president's health and psyche. One senior White House official told New York Magazine that the specter of death sometimes manifests in the 2028 conversation describing AIDS gaming out whether the president will be willing or able to mount yet another run when he will be in his early 80s. At the same time, Trump has leaned into the idea that clinging to the presidency is what keeps him alive. Inside Trump's circle, the result is a strange dual reality of a president who talks about death, legacy, and what he will leave behind. From a $40 million East Wing ballroom that we should tear down to the ark to Trump he once erected across the Lincoln Memorial while still casting himself as a superhuman figure who can outwork younger rivals and defy time. As one senior official told New York Magazine, succession talk is as much about letting Trump live forever through his chosen heirs as it is about acknowledging that he will not. The Daily Beast has contacted the White House for comment, so Donald Trump looks at a president who has passed away and immediately starts thinking that death is closing in on him. Great. Honestly, I'm glad that's where his mind is. Because from the very start of Trump's presidency, I've said that so much of his decision-making is driven by this mindset of nothing lasts. So burn the bridges, burn the boats, go all in. and don't care about the consequences. And that mentality has clearly spread to his advisors too. So it's no surprise that he's told top White House officials he feels this way, that he's thinking about his own death and believes it's coming soon. They're behaving just like him, trying to squeeze every last ounce out of their time in power, exploiting a man who is so mentally diminished that he's easy to manipulate. Stephen Miller is effectively running the White House because Trump has no idea what's going on, and he's proven that again and again, forgetting his own proclamations, forgetting the tariff checks, forgetting the so-called Doge dividends. He makes sweeping promises, likely fed to him by people like Miller, Scott Bessent, or Elon Musk, and then promptly forgets them because he's completely lost. These people are taking advantage of him, not in a sympathetic, poor Trump way, but because they know the clock is ticking. They know their political support is collapsing. ICE has never been more unpopular, and even figures like Caroline Leavitt won't defend them anymore. So this is heading somewhere dark. Trump clinging to power because he thinks it keeps him alive, or using every remaining moment to punish enemies and cash in as much as possible. That has to be stopped. But if there's any silver lining here, it's this. Trump knows he's deteriorating. And yes, that matters. He knows he looks weak. He knows his old playbook, fear-mongering about immigration, the core of his political rise, no longer works. His final crutch is gone. Even on Fox News, people like Jessica Tarloff are dismantling MAGA's spin after the killings in Minneapolis. Trump knows it's slipping, and that realization is eating him alive.
And the president.
Have you seen the body cam video? I was unaware you had the body cam.
You know what? It's going to exonerate all the agents. You're completely right. Stephen Miller saying an assassin tried to murder federal agents, and this is your response. And J.D. Vance retweeting it says something about where this administration is and how they're considering it before and after the murder of Alex Preddy. And this will go down in history as a turning point for this. Greg Bovino wouldn't be leaving tomorrow if an innocent person wasn't killed. And the double standards that are being employed for how you have to behave versus how these agents have to behave is mind-boggling to me. Kyle Rittenhouse was a conservative hero, right, for walking into a protest, actually brandishing a weapon. But this guy who had a legal permit to carry and already had his gun removed, to some people, I guess, is some sort of instigator when he was actually going to help a woman who had been pushed down and tear-gassed by ICE. We have the right to protest. That should be upheld and respected, and it is not being.
Jessica, did you call for...
The spin isn't working. People aren't buying it. And as weak as Donald Trump already was, he's only gotten weaker, physically, mentally, and politically. Now, people inside his own administration are saying Trump thinks he's going to die, is angry at his doctors, and that those doctors are trying to protect him by pushing the media to give him softer coverage. That's not medical care. That's PR. When doctors focus on how good a president looks instead of real health concerns, they lose credibility. So all this talk about scans, MRIs, and how everything is perfect doesn't add up. Pointing out the slurred speech and confusion can be funny, but there's a serious side to this that affects everyone. And that's why it has to be called out every single day. Thanks for watching. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.